Alright, DMs, let's talk about something that might blow your mind. It's probably not going to blow your mind, but here it is anyway. D&D is just one of many tabletop role-playing games out there. And as a dungeon master, you're sitting on a goldmine of ideas that other TTRPGs can offer. We're not reinventing the wheel here, we're just enhancing it. And just to get ahead of it, yes, I hear the group of you that's saying, "Stop trying to make D&D be every other TTRPG, just play that TTRPG." And I agree, but some of these ideas are just too good to pass up. We're not implementing all aspects of a system into D&D, we're just borrowing some bits. So today, I'm going to show you how borrowing mechanics and concepts from other games can elevate your D&D experience, both for you and your players, through 5 other TTRPGs. First up is Blades in the Dark. This game is all about pulling off daring heists, managing criminal factions, and living in a gritty, dangerous world. So if you've ever run a heist in D&D, say Keys from the Golden Vault, you know that sometimes it turns into this mess of players meticulously planning every single detail. And that's fine. Honestly, I love watching my players do that and having it blow up immediately. In Blades, they streamline that entire process with something called flashbacks. In Blades, instead of players planning everything up front, they can call for a flashback in the moment to explain how they prepared for a problem. Did they get locked out? Flashback to when they bribed the guard or stole a key. This keeps the game flowing and prevents the dreaded paralysis of overplanning or it blowing up in their faces immediately. Mechanically, players can take stress, which is similar to HP, to do a flashback during a job to show how they prepared for whatever obstacle they're facing. With some dice rolls in the flashback, they see how well that went, then back to the present to resolve. You can steal, pun intended, this mechanic for D&D. If the players are in the middle of a dungeon crawl or infiltrating an enemy stronghold, let them use a flashback to explain how they prepared earlier. It keeps the pace tight and gives players more control over the narrative. Just make sure there's something you tie to the capability of the flashback. HP, exhaustion, inspiration, or something else. Oh, and Blades also has an incredible system for downtime activities. Perfect for when your players are back in town, gathering resources, forging items, or dealing with faction politics like Ghost of Saltmarsh. It's a great way to flesh out your world between adventures. Next up, Dungeon World. This one is great if you want to emphasize player agency. See, Dungeon World is built on a system of moves. When players describe what they're doing, they don't just roll for initiative or check their inventory, they narrate the fiction first. In this game, the story drives the mechanics, not the other way around. Here's how you can steal from this. When a player says, "I attack the orc," don't just jump straight into the roll mechanics. Ask them, how are you attacking the orc? What does it look like? How are you positioning yourself? These questions get them to think cinematically, to envision the action like a movie scene. It turns combat into something more engaging than just a series of dice rolls. A piece here that I love is Defy Danger, which notes that when you act despite an imminent threat or suffer a calamity, say how you deal with it and roll. And there are options that lean into each skill you have, so you can say how you defy danger. By powering through with strength, by getting out of the way or acting fast with dexterity, by enduring with constitution, with quick thinking with intelligence, through mental fortitude with wisdom, or using charm and social grace with charisma. Bards, I'm looking at you. I know some of you are sitting there saying, if you're going to change combat, just change systems. And again, I hear you. These are just some different tactics to consider to enhance agency in combat. And it doesn't stop at combat. Let players dictate how their spells look, how their character interacts with the environment, whatever fits the fiction first. This is all about making the game feel alive and giving players a real sense of control over their characters. Third, let's talk about horror. Call of Cthulhu is the masterclass for running games where the players feel fragile, vulnerable, and way in over their heads. If you're running a D&D campaign with horror elements, whether it's something like Curse of Strahd or homebrew dark fantasy setting, there's a lot you can borrow from Cthulhu. In Call of Cthulhu, tension doesn't come from combat. It comes from mystery, from the unknown. One of the coolest things you can adapt is the idea of the insanity mechanics or psychological stress. In D&D, players are typically heroes, tough, bold, fearless, but in horror scenarios, that sense of invulnerability works against you. If your players encounter eldritch horrors or dark secrets, make them roll wisdom or charisma saving throws to avoid fear, madness, or even hallucinations. This adds a layer of suspense and makes even simple encounters with the unknown feel terrifying. Call of Cthulhu also focuses heavily on investigation. You can ramp up the tension in your D&D game by making clues scarce and forcing players to think rather than just roll for answers. Let's talk about Fate. Now, Fate isn't your typical dungeon crawler. It's a narrative-first RPG. What it does really well is focus on character motivations and how those motivations drive the story. In Fate, every character has what's called an aspect, a short phrase that defines something crucial about them, like loyal to a fault or haunted by a dark past. Similar, but more in-depth than backgrounds. You can bring this into D&D to deepen role-playing at the table. Especially in scenarios where your party hasn't really taken to expanding their own backgrounds, aspects give you another opportunity to drive at that background or character flaw. Here's how it works. Ask your players to create a core aspect for their character. Then, throughout the game, you as the DM can invoke that aspect. So, for the player who's haunted by a dark past, you could create scenarios where they're forced to confront that past. Maybe they run into an old enemy, or have to make a choice that ties back to it. It creates character-driven drama that makes every session feel personal and weighty. When you focus on character aspects, you're letting the players shape the narrative, and in return, you're giving them more meaningful choices. And when the players' choices matter, the game hits a whole new level. And then fifth, we have Pirate Borg from Limathron. It just used their naval combat system. That's it. I know Ghost of Saltmarsh has naval combat. I know there are other people that have done naval combat in D&D, but Pirate Borg is the way to go. You can argue with me as much as you want. I will never believe any other answer. Use Limathron's naval combat from Pirate Borg. You'll thank me later. Look, D&D is a fantastic game, but there's so much more out there in the world of tabletop role-playing. By borrowing mechanics and ideas from games like Blades in the Dark, Dungeon World, Call of Cthulhu, Fate, and Pirate Borg, you can create a richer, more dynamic D&D experience. You don't have to play these games to benefit from them. Just steal what works, adapt it, and make your D&D game something truly unforgettable. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe for more tips on how to run the game. And tell me, what other TTRPGs have you borrowed from? Let's talk about it in the comments. Till next time, thanks for watching. Roll high, stay ridiculous.